All right, MYB, thank you so much for coming back to Minding Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Champ Ron. This is episode 169. I'm so excited today. We're recording this on July 4th, Independence Day. That's celebrated here in the United States of America. And so, everybody that is celebrating, happy 4th to you. And if you're not celebrating, just enjoy a tremendous day. I'm here in Memphis, Tennessee. It's been a tremendous day so far and looking forward to much more. I'm excited about today's guest. Yes, Amy Ransdell joins from the Georgia area. She is a broker and an investor, and she's going to share some great content, some great nuggets with us today, to say the least. And so she is a multi-entrepreneur. She has started and operated numerous businesses, particularly in the real estate and marketing and lead generation arena. So these are areas, MYB, that are designed to help people like us. Okay, they're designed to help us develop and scale and grow our business. So when you want to go to the next level, this is the route that you can go. It's extremely not just affordable, but of very high value. And that's the most important thing, is the value, more so than the expense of it. And we've talked about that a lot across many episodes in MYB. But Amy, thank you so much for taking time away from your business, away from your family, and all the other things that you could be doing to join us on this episode. I really appreciate it.
I'm really, really excited to be here. Thank you. This is an honor. I love it.
Yeah, excellent. Let's dive right in. Who is Amy Ransdell?
Boy, that's a complicated question. No. Um, so,
Always is.
yeah, in a nutshell, you said a lot about me. Thank you. That's really what I am. In the Atlanta market, I'm a real estate broker. We have our own very niche specific boutique brokerage, but we're not small. We have about 70 members of what we call our powerhouse community. And then I also have a couple of other businesses that support it or synergistically work with that. And I'm an investor, and I've been full-time investing since 2001. It's hard to believe. That's actually been a little over 18 years in total. And I do flips. I've done builds. I've done development projects. I buy properties for portfolio holds and all that kind of thing. And we work with a lot of investors as well. And I've been a real estate coach on a national level for many, many years through that, helping others do the same and build their businesses. And the reason I'm here is because in all of that, we needed to learn how to get more efficient and scale and do different things to be able to manage all of that stuff I just said. And one way was with virtual assistants. And so now I am also the CMO of a virtual assistant provider.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, Amy. And so, as you're doing that, take us back to those early days, because a lot of people listening, they struggle with having the resources to start.
Oh,
They've heard about real estate. They may be dibble and dab in some areas, but they feel like, okay, it's difficult to get loans or capital, or risk adverse, so I don't want to take on a loan. And then, they think of all the reasons it could go bad, right? And you could have that could be as long as Peachtree there in Atlanta in terms of trying to come up with all the excuses. What's that?
there's a lot of them too, not just long. We have probably
Yeah,
20 different industries here.
yeah, exactly. And so, so walk us through the beginning. Did you start out the gate with a lot of capital, or were you like really strategic in how you got involved? Tell me about that start in 2001, because that's right around 9/11. There's a lot of noise out in the marketplace. That's when my career started, was around that time. So walk us through those early days.
You can relate, yeah. And so we've been through several shifts in the market too, right? So it's not even about when we started, but I've had to be mutable and adapt and grow and be organic throughout my career, to always be ahead of where the market's going next. But so everybody starts in a different place. As a real estate coach, I've worked with thousands since 2001, no joke. And so I could really speak to that. We all start somewhere. Me personally, we did not have a lot of assets to work with, or even a good, strong credit foundation or anything like that. The best thing that we did was that we didn't look at anything that we did as an expense.
Hmm.
We looked at everything as an investment and what would be my return of investment on it. So did that mean I was going to buy bandit signs? Okay, great. What's going to be my return, and how did I measure that, and how did I, monitor that to make sure I got the return? That was always our solution to everything in the beginning, right?
Sure.
We did our first few small flips, and we just like a lot of y'all, like, we're taking, we're just flying by the seat of our pants.
Sure.
The thing that I did in the very beginning, and I'm going to hope and be sure and probably assume that at least 50% of your audience are doing the same thing. I did seek out mentors and coaches
Yes.
in the very beginning. And then I still, to this day, hire mentors and coaches and have more than one. I'm in accountability groups at a high level. I'm in high level masterminds, and I have high level coaches. And everything I want to do next, as soon as I decide and commit to that, I immediately find a coach or mentor that's doing it or has done it at a high level so that I can model that excellence and get them to help me.
Yep. Excellent. Yep. And you're podcasting now because having a mentor, I can't tell you how many episodes I've screamed that. That has helped me. That's helped everyone that I've seen successful hasn't done it on their own. They've always had some kind of coach. When I played, those of us that played sports, we always had a coach. No matter how great we were, no matter how great our team was or the organization, we had a coach. And in business, you need a coach as well. And so, thank you for that point, Amy, because I think we all need to be reminded of that.
I do, and can I say something about the sports thing?
Please.
People at the highest level in sports have coaches. The highest level. Tiger Woods still has coaches he works with, right? Okay, so
Absolutely.
he's not at the highest level, yet he's still working with coaches. So from an ego perspective, I always tell people, ego cannot exist if you want to succeed as an entrepreneur or in business. And your ego sometimes will prevent you from getting a coach or acknowledging what you don't know that you don't know yet, and reaching out for someone to help you and guide you. And you look in the sports world, they never have that question. There's no guy out there at the highest level of sports that's just said, I don't need a coach anymore, right? So just, encouragement to all of you. This is something that's in our business planning. A percentage of our profits every year is put aside into a bucket for learning, education, and coaching. Like that's a must rock in our business. So.
Yep, absolutely. And to go along with that point also, and not to be the dead horse, but you and your business represent, you're a kind of a microcosm of that point where, if you take it from a sports standpoint, not only does Tiger Woods have a coach, I mean he's got a coach for almost every aspect of his game. I play basketball, and so I have if you're head coach of a team, but then you have your coach that handles your position. You have a coach that handles shooting, dribbling, passing, defensive stance, scheming, the scheme, how we play as a team. And so all those coaches, come up in one that help you develop. And I love that you and your team have developed that as you've seen a need in your business to be able to provide for yourselves and for the marketplace, to branch out beyond those early days, like say when you're doing some fix and flips and you're kind of getting started till today, where you're offering virtual assistants and you're offering lead generation, you're offering marketing support, and all these different areas. It just all makes sense and ties together. And so Reva Global, which is revaglobal.com, NYB, go there right now, even as you're listening, keep listening, and then go to revaglobal.com and check it out. Let's get into virtual assistants real quick, because my mind's spinning because there's so much we could discuss. Virtual assistants. What is a virtual assistant? Because I don't want to gloss over the fact, Amy, that some of the audience may not be familiar. And so what is a virtual assistant versus, me hiring someone physically to sit in my office or sit somewhere and handle whatever I want them to handle?
Right. Okay. So great question. And you know what? I sometimes catch myself. I make my own assumptions. Sometimes people understand what that is. And if you've not hired one, you may have a misconception of what a virtual assistant is. So to make it like the simplest, let's say the 10,000 foot answer is that a virtual assistant is anybody that's doing things for you virtually. Okay, now it sounds so simple, but that's really what it is. 90% of what we do is done by phone and computer, right? And that means that 90% of what we do could be done anywhere, right? So how many of us go to the beach and still run our company? Well, that means that those exact things could be done by somebody else also virtually. So
Sure.
that's the first definition. And if you chunk it down a little bit, this is, anybody that's working remotely for you as a team member, or maybe even a contract for hire. There's different types of virtual assistant services out there. They just don't work in your physical office, but they're still part of your team. They're still a person with talents and education and abilities and doing work for you. You're just not supplying them real estate to sit in, a laptop, and all that kind of stuff. Like it's they are working wherever they are.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. And so, why is it important for the business owner, whether they're in real estate or whatever industry that they're in, Amy? Why is it important for them to leverage the assistance and the support of virtual assistants?
Yeah. So one of the challenges that we have as entrepreneurs is we tend to kind of keep everything on our plate, right? Right. And
Right.
we have this, kind of attitude. Well, nobody's going to do it as good as me. I'm just going to get it done, or it's just got to get done. I don't have time to train anybody else. If I don't do it, it's not going to get done. Like those are the things we are saying in our heads all the time, right? And so what happens is the law of the lid. There's so many hours in a day that you can complete tasks, and so you can't get to a certain scale in your business. And let me just caveat that by saying, first of all, that not everybody wants to scale. Some people simply want to have a side hustle that makes
Right.
money for them, but they don't want to have it eating up their life. They want their time freedom, but they still want the benefits of the side hustle. And then other people want the benefits of just, letting go of their 9 to 5 and being able to scale their business. But the reality is we can only do so much ourselves. So you have to bring on help in order to get to the next level. And there are several steps I like to walk people through to do that. It's not all about virtual assistants. There's also tools that can help you automate. There's also some good coaching that can help you eliminate things you probably shouldn't be doing,
Sure.
right? And then what's left should only be what is the most highest revenue generating activities or highest decision making activities that you do, or that you can delegate to a physical person in your office, right? Like I do have
Right.
physical help in my office, but then I also have an army of virtual assistants, okay? But you just can't do everything yourself. That's probably the number one thing. Let's just admit that out loud. Everybody
Yeah.
admit that out loud with me.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. No, Amy Ransdell's our guest today on the Minding Your Business podcast, episode 169. And so, yeah, along that line, Amy, of trying to do everything themselves, there's a trust and confidence issue that I see a lot of entrepreneurs or people that want to be entrepreneurs that they have, and I hear it all the time. Ron, I can't trust anybody. I don't want to let this go. I don't want to let that go. It might get messed up. It might get jacked up, and I'm sharing with them all the time about, virtual assistant not only is it a great way to start, but it's a great way to continue your business. And I love what you said, because the lifetime business owner or entrepreneur or lifestyle business entrepreneur, they aren't looking to scale. They're just looking to support their lifestyle. They want to be able to generate, hey, if I can work my job and make an extra 5 grand a month, that's it. That's all I want to do, you know? And so that having a virtual assistant is the way to do it. That's, because if you're working your job and you're working 9 to 5, 9 to 6, you're not going to have the time to really leverage to get to that point. You'll make some transactions every now and then, but it won't be a sustainable revenue generator. And so it's important, like Amy is saying, to focus in on that piece to have leverage so that you can spend time in income producing areas. And so, Amy, can you talk to us a little bit about that, about how you help people and business owners focus on the income producing side? Because look, I see it all the time. Business owners monkey around with websites, they monkey around with PDF documents. They're worried about their social media page. They're worried about all these different things, right? And they're worried about stuff that then they're not driving people to. So they'll spend all year on the website that they drive no traffic to,
Yeah. So,
Facebook pages, all that.
and I see that too. I see a lot of busy work, not productivity.
Yeah.
Now, as a coach, I'll speak to that, and just I have to briefly touch on that. Oftentimes, when I see people doing lots of busy work, they're trying to validate their decision to go into business. They're not necessarily trying to be in business. There's a big
Ah,
belief issue that's really hiding underneath that. I'm just being
wow.
honest. And so, if you're listening to this podcast right now, just stop for a minute, breathe, and ask yourself that question. And so, because I see it a lot, right? Once you really decide from a value belief level that what you're wanting to do in business is really what you want, and then you're able to commit and decide exactly what it is and commit to it, then it's easier to filter away all the busy work.
Hmm.
But the next question to ask is, when you talk about income generating activities, um, here's just a tough question for all of you. If you sat down right now with a piece of paper and you said, what you believe you would like to net this year in your business. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just what is that figure? For some of you, it might be 50 grand. For some of you, it might be $500,000. For some of you, it might be $1 million. I don't know what it is, but whatever that number is, now I want you to divide it by the number of hours that you can spend in your business every single week, working only 38 weeks of the year, because let's assume you go on some vacations and holidays and so forth. Now, what do you have to make per hour to make the net that you said you deserve and want to make in your business? Now look at that number, and I guarantee nobody on this call, that number comes out to $10. I guarantee it. Okay. Now,
Right.
okay, now look at everything that you do. All the stuff that you're doing. Is that stuff that can be done by somebody for $10 an hour or $20 an hour or less, right? If it is, then again, law of the lid. Because if you're sitting there doing a PDF edit that could be done by a virtual assistant for minimal money, then you're preventing yourself you're losing an hour towards the net you have to make, right? So basically, if you're doing $10 an hour work, you're going to have a bank account at the end of the year that looks like you work for a job that pays $10 an hour.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean,
so
that's the math.
Exactly. So don't say you want to make $500,000 and then do $10 an hour work. I mean, that's just you're just shooting yourself in the foot that way, right?
Right.
So that's oftentimes the most, not I hate to use the word painful, but sometimes one of the most telling questions when we first work with a client and we go through all the stuff that they're doing. They're like, okay, but you know that 90% of this stuff is stuff that's not $350 an hour work, right?
Right.
So so that's really, do that work for yourself. Go through everything you're doing and decide what are the highest revenue generating activities. Everything else is probably should not be done by you.
Yeah, absolutely. Amy, one of the early struggles I had with VAs, and just being completely honest, was training them. Training them on my business, training them on what I was looking for, training them on my lead generation form, that sort of thing. It took me a little time, but then I was able to settle, with not only a company, but with a few individuals that they got it. Can you talk about that, the training piece of VAs, in this case, virtual assistants, and how business owners can get them, work together with your company to get the right people up to speed to do those things that you mentioned?
Yeah, so let me answer. You mentioned trust in the last
Yeah.
segment too, so that kind of goes together. So let me answer that part, and then we can come back to how Reva does it differently, because
Okay.
and so that's a kind of a sub question or a subcategory is how Reva does it. But for each of you, so you talk about trusting, we hire people and so forth. So one of our favorite phrases in our personal office here in Atlanta is the phrase that we like to do. We like data, not drama. Okay. And so in order to have no drama or trust issues is that we document every process. We have exactly how we want things done. We use screen recording tools or anything to document each process so that it's easy to hand it to someone else and measure their performance based upon what you directly handed them. It's pragmatic, right?
Right.
So it's not about do I trust them or not? It's did you do A or B or not? Period. Right? You didn't do A or B, well, then we figure out why, and if we can't fix the reason why, then we move forward with another person. Like it takes away some of those challenges we have on the trust side, because we've documented how we want it done and we can measure whether they're doing it right, and B, also performance, and C, that's how you scale. Because now you have duplicable processes. It's not just intuitive stuff stuck in your head. And then every time you hire someone, you got to start over again when you hire another person, et cetera. We have some team members who will hire a VA. They do all this process. That VA starts doing a ton of things for them. And then they decide they want to scale and add another VA. And when you've documented your processes, you don't even have to hire the second VA. The first VA can do it, right? Because again, you do that. So document everything you're doing, guys. Document. That's my biggest training thing to all of you, because each of you are going to have a unique way you want things done, and so that you're going to have to do that.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely great points and great best practice in working with a virtual assistant for sure. Amy, what do you see next as far as with the virtual assistant industry? Obviously, we're in the middle of actually two pandemics, right? We've got the pandemic of racial and social injustice towards Black people, and you've got obviously COVID-19 with the coronavirus. Let's start with the latter. Where do you see the virtual assistant industry going, as we go through this quarantine social distance existence. Obviously, by all indications, it looks like the virus is going to be with us for some time as we see cases rising. And so,
Yeah.
how has that impacted your business, and where do you see it going?
So here's, I think, on a kind of a, I hate to say global scale, but on a more macroeconomic scale. So we've had a major event happen, but I think this has changed the face of how all of us as business owners have to look at things moving forward forevermore.
Yeah,
And certain things become very important that have come out of this. One is that culture within your business has to be really strong.
right.
Secondly, is that you have to be willing to allow people to work from home or work remotely. Like companies are being forced to think in that space anyway.
Sure.
Thirdly, is that from an economic standpoint, when it comes to budgeting, manpower, and resources within your business, if you can have a virtual assistant who's highly talented, highly educated, and we can come back to how Reva does it and why I can say that, that's doing a job for you that in your local market might cost you $25 to $35 an hour to hire a local person to do, then in order for you to sustain your company through any future economic events, then you need to have a workforce that's dedicated, full-time, and at a cost point that makes sense, right?
Sure.
And so putting all that together, that's where virtual assistants come into play, right?
Right.
I know personally, these events have forced us in a beautiful, beautiful way to get really clear on how, on everything that we do, who else could do it for us, and could it be done in a virtual format? Like we
Sure.
now look at everything with those two questions. So
Yeah, definitely. And I love the way you put that in terms of how you guys do it at Reva, as well as kind of from that macroeconomic perspective that I see the industry obviously continue to grow, but something that touched what you said, Amy, touched me was I travel a lot in the Midwest. Okay, and I work from a bank consulting standpoint. I help community banks invest in low to moderate income communities.
that's all.
I see, yeah, no, definitely, it's great work. But one of the things that I see is a lot of business owners in those areas. They, obviously attracting talent to some of those rural areas is just going to be in some cases a fool's errand, or extremely talent or challenging to find that talent. And so, yeah, I see, your company and companies like yours in your industry filling a lot of gaps for companies to be able to provide, top level talent, like you say, at that price point that, where it makes sense. And I think it's going to allow for more opportunities for more people, because you don't have to move to the big market. You don't have to be in New York. You don't have to be in LA. You don't have to be in Chicago anymore. Now you can move to areas, or people can migrate to areas where it's a little more affordable. Maybe it's closer to family. Maybe they could have a little bit more of a kind of somewhat rural lifestyle, and then still be performing for a company out of New York or Boston or wherever. And your company kind of provides that conduit for that.
We do, and I don't know if you, just to speak to this, since this is kind of in space and time. If anybody listens to this podcast, 10 years from now,
Yeah.
what's happening in the real estate market supports too what you just said, right? There's
Yeah.
this mass migration out of the cities. I mean, mass. Our mountain properties in Georgia, lake properties, coastal properties, like bam, like people are just, I mean, they're just flocking out in droves. And a lot of it's because exactly what you just said, they feel a certain sense of certainty in the fact that they can, in fact, still work for a company or run their business and still have enough talent or team members to make that happen virtually, right?
Yeah.
And they can be people anywhere in the world, which with Reva, all of our virtual assistants are in the Philippines. And it's just, you start to realize I don't have to have a brick and mortar building with 20 local people there. I don't. I've now expanded my available labor pool, exponentially, right?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so, you're right. Hopefully, if someone's listening to this 10 years from now, this will be, certainly a huge reality, and maybe even evolve to other iterations that are helping, companies and businesses all around the country and around the world. Where do you see for yourself personally, Amy? Let's get into that a little bit. So, how important is family for you in your business? Obviously, you've been in business for some time. I know, it's difficult to do that without, support of family, and whatever that looks like. So talk about that and talk about what's next for Amy, in business. And so, Where do you see for yourself continuing to evolve? Obviously, you've got a long time to go in your career, and so where do you see some of your next iterations of your career as well?
Oh, it's an interesting question. So family, I want to share something personal with your listeners
Yeah,
because this also supports why I do a lot of the things that I do and why I'm so passionate about Reva Global.
yeah,
So I mentioned that I own a lot of different things. I do a lot of different things and I work with a lot of people. And my passion, my deep-seated passion is leading, educating, coaching, and training people. I love when I can take somebody and help them thrive in what they want for them, which is because it's, again, like a fingerprint, it's unique for everyone, right?
right,
So I love that, and the more space I can create for myself to have the space internally and energy to help thousands of people do that, that's where I want to be. And so our iterations, I love that word, as we grow, are to continue putting us in positions to help more and more people. But whether it's local consumer clients or coaching clients across the country, um, my family situation, though, I want to share this with everyone because this is how
yeah,
impactful virtual assistants are. So I have been a single mother, no co-parent at all, for a little over 11 years.
wow,
And I don't have any family that lives in the same city with me. I have raised these three. Two of them were in diapers. One was not even walking yet when that
wow,
impact event happened in our lives. And so I've been able to still scale and grow and manage a couple hundred people and love it and enjoy it and not feel overwhelmed, which some people would, because of the skills I've learned from my coaches on how to create efficiencies through automation and outsourcing, and because I have virtual assistants supporting me. So if I need to spend a day with my children, which I just recently took them kayaking in Florida,
yeah,
while I was down there kayaking with manatees, I had, still lead generation happening for me, follow-up calls, marketing happening for me,
wow,
content creation, just all kinds of work being done for me, unbelievable work, and I didn't have to worry about any of it. And when I came back, it's as if my company had never closed for the weekend, right?
yeah,
So that's the power of taking the time and the resources now in your business to create that for yourselves, so that you have that freedom to make those decisions, with your family. So I don't know if that
wow.
helps anybody,
And
but I
so,
hope it inspire them.
three kids. Wow, because I've got three girls, okay,
Yeah.
and they're
Oh,
elementary school age. My oldest is 10, so I've got 10, 9, and 7, soon to be 8.
oh, you're
Um,
into it.
yeah, I could not imagine. So, I mean, good grief, Amy. As a single mother, you talk about managing efficiencies. So you're leading, coaching, guiding three young kids. Are they girls, boys? What's the mix?
Oldest is 20, and then I have a 13-year-old and who's a girl, and an 11-year-old is a boy,
Okay,
and they're like peas and carrots. It wasn't an intention to have such a big gap between. It just kind of was a God thing. It just happened. But they are, and they're a joy. They're wonderful. I will say we don't have the most conventional family life,
sure,
and they're all mini entrepreneurs, right? Because they're
right.
around this all the time. Um, but truly, I don't think I would have tried to pursue any of the things I have if I didn't have ways to make what I do more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there are people listening to this podcast who are single mothers that are just like, wow, or single fathers that are just, wow, how did you do it?
And you can so do it, but I will say from a mindset perspective, right? So I can provide you virtual assistants all day long. I can provide you all kinds of anecdotal stories about what I did or not, right? But the
Right.
reality is that a lot of it, 90% of it really is, and I use that phrase a lot, but it's our mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So you really, if you're a single mom, single dad, or you've got a young family and you're trying to balance a 9 to 5 and get this real estate goal, dream driving forward, or you're trying to do online sales, whatever that is as an entrepreneur, you got to just first ask yourself how badly you want it, right?
Yes.
Make sure that in your mindset, you believe that you can, you are truly committed, and you're willing to sacrifice and discipline your way towards it. If that stuff's not there, then it will be hard. But if it is there, then it will, not to be cliche, and I could go hours on that law of attraction type scenario, and that's, people define that wrong. But when
Sure.
you really want it, the path to getting to it will become clearer to you. You'll only see solutions, not problems. So just focus on what you want, and you'll see that. So
Yep, excellent. Amy Ransdell is our guest today on episode 169 of the Minding Your Business podcast. There in the Atlanta, Georgia area. She's a real estate investor, real estate coach, I mean, some of everything. CMO of Reva Global. That's revaglobal.com. And she will help you, as you learned already. Her and her team can be a tremendous help to you and your business. I myself are going to be looking into this as well, because I think there's some opportunity for things that I do that Amy and her team can help me with. And so I encourage you as well to do so. That's a way to grow your business without question. Amy, something fun. I like to ask guests, and I love the responses I get to this question. If I had $100 million and I pull up to your house with a Brinks truck and I say, Amy, no strings attached. I'm feeling generous today and I've got $100 million cash for you. What would you do with that money and why?
Wow. So immediately my brain uses the word diversification because that's the investor in me, right? Okay.
Right.
So I'm seeing a pie chart in my head already, right?
Right.
I have charitable pursuits that a large portion of that would go to immediately, because I think a lot of us, when you get to certain levels in entrepreneur, you realize that, and I'm also, my faith has a lot to do with this as well, but
Sure.
I believe that we were given all of these gifts, and one of our obligations is to give them back.
Yeah.
So a large piece of that would go to charitably, but another large piece of that, besides, obviously I'd probably do some legacy building for my family. No, my kids still have to get jobs and pay for their own way. But anyway, I would very likely pour a lot of that into more education and programs where I could help exponentially even more people than we can now. Because
Sure.
the more that I can give that back to people, that's my driver, is how can I help? How can I help more? So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely having the kind of fiduciary heart to give back to various areas that just help make our community better
Yes.
and provide opportunities across the board for more people. I think is always tremendous and always in order. So definitely.
I feel like it's our we were created with gifts, and we should give those back so that we can help others rise. Our culture phrase in our office is collective rise.
Mm,
We believe that you rise
I like that.
by helping others rise, you rise, right?
Hmm.
And that's how we operate here as a core value in this office. They're all colleagues, not competitors, but yet they're competitive in the market.
Sure.
And by helping each other, everybody thrives at a greater level. And so yes, if somebody gave me 100 million, I could help a lot of people rise. That'd be pretty fun. I don't know that. I can't put it in my coffin with me and take it with me. So
Right. That's true. That much is true.
right.
As we wrap up, Amy, because this has been fun, and I really appreciate everything that you shared. You shared some great nuggets. I think this is going to help a ton of people. It's helping me already myself. Again, in critically thinking and challenging mindset in some areas. What are one or two best practices that have worked for you that you think will work for others? People listening to this, kind of span the gambit of, they're in the workforce right now. They're concerned about their job. They may have been recently let go or furloughed. They may be doing extremely well. Maybe this time, since March has been, a time that they've done very well, maybe better than they were doing before. But either way, what are one or two things that have really worked for you that you kind of hold to and you think will help others as, again, they challenge their mindset and look to just be better? Because I've always said this, no matter how we all look in the mirror, we all want three things. We all want to be better for ourselves, better for our families, and better for our communities. We all have that in common. And so what are one or two best practices that work for you that can help us do that?
Okay. So first two things, like literally to the unconscious mind, came first, right?
Yeah.
Um, One of them is that to everyone, you need to dedicate a portion, almost like a tithe, which, if you will, to yourselves of your time and your resources towards growth. And that can be that you read every day, find meditative time every day, you seek out mentors, coaches, programs. You've got to dedicate time to your growth. Your
Yes.
brain, your muscle up here has to be exercised so that it can be stronger and think more efficiently. And the only way to do that is to exercise it with growth.
Yes.
So do that work, find that space. I think we get really busy in life, and then that's the stuff that we'll tend to put away. Like even exercise, physical exercise, I consider that part of that portion of time for myself to grow my health, my mental health, my what I know, right? And then I think my second thing is that everybody take this just as a question to write on a Post-it note and stick it on the wall or on your laptops or something. Every time you go do something, whatever it is, accounting, bookkeeping, things you don't like to do, things
Yeah.
that aggravate you, things you procrastinate on, but you have to do. I don't care. Whatever it is, anything you're going to go do, cold calls. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Ask yourself, not how do I do this or what do I need to do, but who can do it for me?
Yeah.
Just start asking yourself that question. Everything I do, as soon as I feel any angst at all, I'm like, oh wait, who can do this for me? Okay, so that you can start leveraging and growing, so that you don't hit that law of the lid kind of scenario I talked about earlier. So just do that favor to yourself. Ask who. It doesn't mean that you can afford to hire the who right now, but you can constantly acknowledge that that can be done by someone else, and now set that as a goal to get someone else doing it for you.
Excellent. Yep, I love that. That's part of growth, and that applies, personally and professionally, as Amy has described for herself. That can work for you, NYB community. So if you're listening to this and you get done listening to this podcast, if there's anything I could charge you with, leveraging what Amy just mentioned, is begin thinking from a growth mindset, and then also her second point, which is extremely valid, is look at things task wise that you can leverage with someone else that could be part of your team, and leverage that so that then you can spend your time doing other things that move the needle, or so-called move the ball down the field, like we talked about in our sports analogies earlier. So Amy, thank you so much for that. How can people get in touch with you and connect with you? Of course, NYB, all her information will be in the show notes, so check there. You'll be able to go right to links and click and do that sort of thing. But how can people connect with you, Amy?
Yeah, so you're welcome to go straight to the website, which is revaglobal.com. When you get there, there's instant chat that you can talk to team members. There's all kinds of things there. You're also welcome to email me directly. It's Amy, A-M-Y. It's simple to remember and spell, at revaglobal.com. And I do have a team. I do have a virtual assistant who supports me in answering my emails. So it may not be me, maybe my support team, but please email me so that we can get you started. So either just email me directly or go to revaglobal.com. On the website, you can schedule a strategy session with one of our team members for 15 minutes. Take 15 minutes and invest in yourself for 15 minutes to talk to a team member to see how a virtual assistant could start supporting you. Okay. So you can schedule one of those right on our website.
Yep, excellent. Real estate broker, investor, and CMO of Reva Global. That's revaglobal.com. Amy Ransdell joins us today. Amy, I can't thank you enough for joining on a Saturday of all days, and on the holiday to join us here on episode 169 of the Minding Your Business podcast. Best wishes to you and your family, personally and professionally. And again, you'll be hearing from me, because I'm going to be looking into some more how I can get involved with your company to help do some of the things we talked about today, which is outsource some of the tasks that I'm doing even currently, so that I can continue to leverage, grow, and scale. And NYB, I encourage you to do the same. But Amy, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been a real blessing. I love it. I can't wait to talk to some of your listeners. So I hope all of y'all call.
Yep, absolutely. NYB community, please make sure that you do that. Thank you again, Amy. Real quick, before we end the episode, make sure that you go to brandyourpod.com. Listen, your target audience is not all on your Facebook timeline. So don't be the victim of social media algorithms, okay? You need to be able to connect. You can launch your podcast now today. You've had your podcast idea. I want to be able to help you with that. I'm your podcast partner. So go to brandyourpod.com. That's BrandPod, your brand's voice amplified. Also, I have, as I've mentioned on the last episode, the Minding Your Business directory is up and going. Yes, I went through with two great developers to get that done, but that is at thenybpodcast.com/team. thenybpodcast.com/team. You can see the directory. Go on there so you can add your information. It is just $240 for a year, or it's $30 a month. That's going to a vast network, including the 11 state banking associations where I am endorsed. They do not accept checks. You have to be approved, majority vote by their board of directors. I am. You want to guess how many outside bank vendors and podcasts are endorsed by some of these state banking associations? I'll let you take a guess. But that number is 0, other than me. All right. So 11 state banking associations you want to get your information in front of, which the link to the directory will be going to them on a monthly basis that they've asked for. Okay. 95% of the banks in most states are members of the state banking association. They advocate for the community banking industry. Those are folks that have done mostly very well, and they want to know about your business, and they want to patronize your business, but they can't do so unless they know about you. And as Amy mentioned earlier in our interview, they're doing business all around the country, not just in their local market. And so now's a great time. So look to join the Minding Your Business directory. Again, themybpodcast.com/team. Listen, I'm going to get out of here. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. And remember, there's 3 areas that we all have in common. We want to be better for ourselves, better for our families, and better for our communities. Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast.